Welcome to another episode of We Don't Die. I'm your host, Sandra Champlain, author of the best-selling book called We Don't Die, A Skeptic's Discovery of Life After Death. Today on the show, our guest is Karen A. Dahlman. Karen is the author of 3 books and a spirit communicator who has had a lifelong connection with spirit beings. She teaches within her books creative ways to commune with the higher self, spirit guides, and the unseen dimensions and energies that exist among us. Within her message, Karen shares the positive side to the Ouija board as a tool for exploring the expansive realms of consciousness. Being a frequent guest on international talk radio and podcast shows, Karen shares insight into discovering and unlocking one's greatness within, and expanding this inner guidance system to create one's desires, dreams, and delights. Karen holds a master's degree from the University of New Mexico in archetypal art therapy. She is a licensed psychotherapist and is an experienced hypnotherapist and works with past life regression. You can visit her website at karenadahlman.com. Karen Dahlman, welcome to We Don't Die Radio.
Hi, Sandra. Very glad to be here. Thank you for having me today.
You're welcome. I'm so excited that I got a little tongue-tied in your introduction, but I mean, well,
it's a lot.
I'm really excited because, first of all, I think the subject matter that we are going to get into with the Ouija board is controversial to some, and so I know controversy sells, so we'll see where it all goes. But just to start out, Karen, first of all, thank you for saying yes to being on the show.
Oh, absolutely. You're very welcome.
I've heard some really wonderful things about you, and
how
warm and wonderful and giving you are. So how does your story begin that you get involved in this world? And just keeping in mind that the name of the show is We Don't Die, so of course people love to hear why you believe that life after death is real. So if you can give us some of your background.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I'm one of those children that at a very young age remembered, I guess you can say, kind of that I was from somewhere else. In a sense, I had always connections to other beings. I could see them. They'd come in my room at night. Usually came when I was more calm. But I also had what we might call an imaginary playmate that was not imaginary at all by no stretch of my imagination. Very real, very physical. And it would communicate with him, and he would communicate with me first telepathically, and then I started using my mouth. But I remember his thoughts would come into my own. It was a very, very positive experience for me, yet I realized nobody else in my family experienced him. And so I learned pretty much at a young age not to talk too much about this stuff because, you can kind of be deemed crazy. So I just kept a lot of that to myself as I got older. And I put this imaginary playmate, I think at that time, away. I never really put him away. And I can explain how he's still in my life to this day. But I put him away, so I thought. And about the age of 8, still having weird experiences. I just went and talked to people about it. I had guardian angels visiting me. I would call them the guardians, but they are angels. They're angelic beings, and they'd visit me at night. And I physically would see them, and they'd come and touch me sometimes and make sure I was okay. And they felt very nurturing. But around the age of 8, I had some friends who lived down the street, and they invited me to come to their house and play. They were 2 sisters. One was the age of 8, and one was 10, and I was 8. And so we went to their house thinking we're going to play some kind of new game they had. They said, hey, we got this new game. Well, they pulled out the Ouija board.
Okay.
And I'm like, what is this? I really didn't know much about it. I didn't even know what it was. And they said, look, you can talk to the dead through this tool. I said, what? Come on. They put their hands on it and start talking, asking questions, and it's spelling out answers. And they were a little silly at first. And I said, I want to try it. I said, okay, try it. And sure enough, it started moving, and we were getting some answers to some questions. And they said, now we're going to introduce you to our sister. I said, what do you mean? Your sister's right here. They said, no, I have a dead sister. I said, What? Yeah. One of the girls in the room, the twin, the older one, 10, had a sister who died right after birth. And they said, she is growing up. She is our age now. I said, what? She's dead, but she's your age? She goes, yes, we talk to her all the time. She's also 10. Now that just opened this whole world up to me in terms of, hey, I've been seeing things. What are these things? Maybe these are the spirits and this is similar. I can talk to them now through this board, and we can talk to a child who's dead, but also now is growing up on the other side. It really put a lot of things together for me at a very young age. So, Sandra, I quickly ran home, told my parents, it's true. It's true. The dead exist. You can talk to them. They're sure, sure. Wink, wink. But that's what I was learning in church. I was a Catholic.
Of course,
I was raised Catholic, and I was told, that you have an afterlife. And now I had proof, and that you had guardian angels, and I already knew I had angels because I talked to them and I saw them. But here was more manifestation of it. And from that point on, I asked for a Ouija board for Christmas. I got one from Santa Claus that year.
God loves Santa Claus.
God loves Santa Claus, and Santa Claus loves me. And it was December, get this, it was December 25th, 1973. And the day after, on December 26th, 1973, the Exorcist movie came out. So it was kind of cool. I got mine right before the Exorcist came out. But that incident led me on this lifelong journey and odyssey exploring the other realms with this incredible tool.
Right. Wow. Incredible. And was it in the Exorcist movie that the Ouija board came out as a horror piece?
Yeah, in that movie, Reagan, who was a girl, but the true story was it was a boy. But Reagan used it to talk to Captain Howdy for about a minute and a half in the movie. That's about it. And that's supposedly Captain Howdy became Panzuzu, which was the demon in the movie. Blah blah blah. But that's how the Ouija board was introduced. Now let me say this: when the Ouija board was made and sold all these years, it came out in 1890.
It did.
Yeah, it's that old. It came out in 1890, 91 when the patent was granted. And it was made by a company called the Cunard Novelty Company. William Fuld was a varnisher at the company. He took over the company in 1919. His family owned it until 1966 when Parker Brothers bought it from them. And get this, in 1966, through 1967, that board outsold their top-selling game of the day, which was Monopoly. It sold 2 million copies. So you can imagine how popular this tool was. So, of course, Hollywood ran with that. And so when The Exorcist came out in 73, well, the book came out in 71, but the movie came out in 73, of course they used the Ouija board because it was the most popular selling game. It's marketed as a game at the time. Mm-hmm. See, so Hollywood really knew how to use that as a marketing ploy, and of course, there was your Ouija board popping up in a negative manner.
Yeah, really, really interesting how these things come up, and then they become, something scary or something not to play with. I mean, I don't remember because when we were kids, I don't know if we had one or a friend had one. But, I knew the intent behind it was to talk to dead people. And I thought, hey, cool. Sure. But it wasn't the, oh my God, you can't play with that. You're, bringing in the devil. So it makes sense that it came in from the movie. But here's the thing. I'm all about busting through myths on this show, and empowering people because I know for myself, I did some studying on EVPs, electronic voice phenomena, back in 2005, or I think it was 2005. And why I bring this up is at that time, I really thought if I tried to record dead people, the devil could come through, right? Because remember the movie White Noise that came out?
I sure do.
Yeah, so that had to do with electronic voice phenomena. And so when I finally decided to take a course on electronic voice phenomena with the couple that was at the time running the Association for Electronic Voice Phenomena, Tom and Lisa Butler, they told the story of how EVP really got known in the world. And it was only because somebody featured it in a scary movie. And
very interesting.
Yeah. And so they were really upset because they worked with whatever film company it was. I can't remember what studios it was, but they trained them how to do this electronic voice phenomena. And in the past, I mean, their knowledge of all these, thousands of EVPs they recorded were messages of love and very often humor, right? So now this movie production company takes it, turns it into a horror, and of course they were horrified, like, oh no, this is a tool people get good messages, not bad. Well, on one hand, it caused a lot of fear, but on the other hand, Karen, the whole world knew about recording, and
Yeah.
people started doing it. And, some people started doing it for the right reasons. So maybe through this conversation, we can demystify the Ouija board, and it can be, used as a tool for communicating with our loved ones and take away the stigma of scary stuff.
Well, yeah, and Sandra, I was raised again a Catholic family, and we did church. I did the Bible school, I did catechism, I did CCD, I did all the confirmation, did all of that. We had rosaries in our rooms, we had our crosses on our walls. We were really into it, and to me, it wasn't contradictory. It wasn't contradictory to the religion, because my family wasn't like, oh, bad Ouija board. They're more like, sure, you can go use this. And there was neutral. There was no negativity, no positivity. They just probably thought it was a game. We talk about it to this day, because my parents still know I do it, that I'm talking internationally about this stuff and writing books about it. They fully understand there's something to this, that I'm communicating with these different dimensions and realms. But I never had the fear instilled in me. Other people did. Other children would come to my house. We do sleepovers, and their parents would say, or the mom would say, you could go to Karen's house, but you can't do the Ouija board. And I always said, why can't you do the Ouija board? Don't worry, we'll play light as a feather, stiff as a board. We'll do something else paranormal.
I forgot about that. We played that too. Oh, fun. Well,
we all played that. And so why was that okay? And why was the Ouija board bad? See, my point was, to me, it all was dealing with these other dimensions. It was allowing us to explore and tap into what happens to our consciousness, what happens to our soul and spirit when we pass over. What abilities do we hold within ourselves that we don't tap? And light as a feather, stiff as a board really allowed us to start lifting people with like two fingers. It showed us that there was so much more than meets the eye or what we're told. And so I thought, you can't do Ouija, then we'll do other kinds of games that'll let us reach into these realms. And so Ouija for me became kind of a symbol of that, but also I was using it all the time with different people just to explore these realms. And I did start with speaking with the deceased, and it was beautiful for that. And to this day, I will still hold sessions where I will speak to deceased, or people have questions, and it helps them, have closure and on grief, or to have some answers. And I communicate with animals also through this board. But I've taken it so much further, Sandra. I am speaking to ethereal beings of source energy, any kind of angelic beings. I speak to extraterrestrials. I speak to any interdimensional beings that want to come through. I speak to anything that has a consciousness to it, because this has become my tool. It's my excuse, my permission slip. It's my tool to reach into the other realms of anything that is a sentient being. It allows me to do that.
Very interesting. So back to your story, though. So when did you start? Let's see, how do I even say this? Because at some point, did you work in mainstream? Obviously, you went to school.
Oh, yeah.
And, became a psychotherapist and all of this. And has it been all along that you've had the Ouija board around and that you were doing this? Did people know about it? Was it kind of hidden?
Let's say this. I was in the closet till 2012 with it. Although people that knew me closely, I had some, I'll just say, I'd never say names, but I had some close therapists, friends, and administrators who used the board with me. And I've had many professional people and just people from all walks of life over the years, but it was a quiet, more secretive thing. I kept it that way because I was writing a book in 1997, and I was a practicing psychotherapist in Austin. I had a private practice, and I had a lot of contracts in the hospitals. So I really had to prove that I was this grounded licensed practitioner. And if you brought up the word Ouija, had such a stigma and a controversial stigma around it that it just wouldn't fly. I knew I'd be considered a quack. So I kept it separate from my practice. I always did. I kept it separate. It was something that I used for my own spiritual explorations on the side. Although definitely things I was exploring helped me be a better person and a better therapist with my clients. So I could see how it would work with it help segue into my work, but yet I kept them separate. And so I didn't talk about it openly. And I didn't publish that first book until quite a few years later. It was not until 2012. And when I published that book, I decided I can come out. Although that first book of mine does not speak at all about the Ouija board, yet everything in that book I wrote with the help of my spirit guides and the angels.
What's the name of your first book?
It's called The Spirit of Creativity, Embodying Your Soul's Passion.
Okay.
And it's all about living the creative life that not to be an artist, but that we come into this world creative beings, and we have to uncover that and release it. And then we can start manifesting and creating the world that we desire in greater, grander ways. This is before the law of attraction even came out. This is way before all that stuff was, The Secret and all that. It was what the guides were bringing to me. And it was also some of the work I was doing with my clients. And so I put that into a book. But I didn't come out until 2012 with it published, and it immediately landed me on some big shows. And people were so interested in the Ouija, although still, even in 2012, there was still a negativity about it, that I found that people started writing to me and said they were also in the closet with their board. They're afraid. Yeah, they're professionals and they're afraid to mention they do it because it's a kid's game, or it sounds stupid, or it's that they know they're tapping on something big, or people say they're demonic or possessed.
Sure.
But people wrote to me and said, we really want to understand your odyssey with this tool. So that's why I wrote the book, The Spirits of Ouija, 4 Decades of Communication, because at that point I've been using the board for 40 years.
Wow.
Yeah, when that book came out, it'd been 40 years I've been using the board, and that came out in 2013. And then people just wanted to learn more. And so I thought, you know what? I'm in the public now. No matter what I'm doing with my other career, my other life, it's not a negative stigma for me anymore. It's always been positive, but now I'm so open and out there about it that it allows a lot of people to be open and to start talking about this wonderful tool.
Oh yeah, of course. Spirit of Ouija, is it what it's called?
The spirits of Ouija.
The Spirits of Ouija.
Yes.
I had looked it up on Amazon, and you've gotten just all 5-star reviews. I mean, it's a good book.
Yeah, people really like it. It helps them to be open about it. A lot of people are curious about this tool. They get so caught up in the dogma and the negativity around it that they were always afraid of it, but they kind of wanted to try it. So this book, people tell me, to them, it's like the manual for the Ouija that was never written. When you buy a Ouija board, there's no manual, and so they say this is like the manual that everybody needs to read. So I'm very honored by that they would say that.
Yeah, it's really nice. I met a woman at one of my workshops that I had gone to, and she's got a note card, and she's got A through Z written on it, and she's got the numbers written on it, and she's got a real small flat crystal, and she just, when she's relaxing, she'll just have a question in mind, and her finger will just land on whichever a letter, and spells words, and she's written philosophy and poems, or, she gives the credit to the spirit world. But, I remember when she told me that, I thought, that's no different than a Ouija board. Why?
Is. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's just, and to give, it just shows how deep beliefs can be, that an actual piece of, I don't know what they're made out of anymore, but, if I say it's a wooden board or something like that, that in and of itself, it can be a bad thing. It's like.
Well, I always say, why would you give your power over to some inanimate object, such as a piece of wood or masonite or compressed particle board or cardboard? That's what they're made out of now, is mostly cardboard. And why would somebody give their power over? And it's not really because of that individual. It's because of all things they've heard from their beliefs, from what they've learned, what's been indoctrinated in them, what's been spoon-fed into them. And I say, really check that and look at yourself, and what do you want to believe about it? Because that's all it is. It's a tool. It's a permission slip to reach into other realms. No different than a K2 meter, no different than a Frank's box, no different than a candle lit in your room, no different than you praying. There's nothing different. It's just a tool to augment you to reach into these realms. Now, you and I were having a conversation a little bit earlier. You and I have something very much in common, and it's our exploration into, being more of a medium and transmediumship and channeling. Mm-hmm. And once you take the board away, you can still do this work. And that's where I'm at today with it. Take the board away. I'm still talking to my guides. And so it's not the board, it's me, it's ourselves, it's the user of the board, the operator of the board that is able to reach in these realms. It just becomes a symbol for them or a simple way that says, okay, let's use a tool and that'll help you guide you through it. Now, the woman who writes on a piece of paper, you guess technically you can't call it a Ouija board. We just trademarked, but you would call that a spirit board, a channeling board, a talking board. And this brings up a great point. I'm glad you brought up that story. People ask me this all the time. What kind of board should I get? My answer is get the board that makes you feel most comfortable with yourself. Get or make one yourself even better because you put your intentions into it. And that's what's going to work for you. And the reason why is because, again, it's not the board. It's how you feel about yourself, the energetic vibration that you raise yourself to that allows you to reach into these other realms.
Very good. My mind is going to like an image of dowsing rods, the old timers that would douse for where to put an underground stream or where to build a well and all that stuff. And people always thought that these rods had magic powers. But no, it's got nothing to do with the rods. The body would signal the rods to open up.
That's
so
right.
We are the channel. We are the instrument. It's not the board. It's not the rods. It's us.
Exactly. And so some of us, like I was so young and that was the way I learned to tap into these realms. And so it just worked very well for me. So, today it's like, I enjoy doing it. I enjoy using the board. I enjoy that direct communication. I enjoy how well it works for me. And here I'm on my 44th year, I'm going in my 44th year using this tool. And it's been such a part of my life, but again, I don't need it. I can speak directly with spirit. I started there when I was very young and I'm full circle back there again. But I do enjoy having this tool. Dowsing rods I love too. And I love tarot. I have a bunch of tarot decks and oracle cards, which again, that's just a tool. And I just want to stress, as you've been stressing too, Sandra, to the audience, is that there doesn't have to be any negativity associated with this except for the negativity you want to bring to it. In fact, I don't even believe in evil. I believe in evil people having evil behaviors, but I don't believe in evil inherently. It's what we bring to the table and what we project onto things that makes it so.
Yes, I believe that. And Karen, it's so funny because we're talking about this and I hear the words coming out of my mouth that, it's just a board, piece of wood, piece of cardboard. But my belief in what my brain is still trying me to convince is, well, there's no way in hell you're going to get one, Sandra. Right? Like that's what's coming in my mind right now. So
I love that because we have to, that's what I tell people. I say, explore that within yourself because people are like, I want to do it. Okay. And then I say, well, what do you really think and feel about it? Well, I was told this. And I say, then look at that next. Look at that because if you take this tool and start using a tool when you still have some trepidation and even subconscious trepidation, you're going to attract more negative things to you. There is negative energies out there. There are lower astral. There are the stuck energies and you can draw that to you. But just as easily, if you have different intentions and beliefs, you can draw these magnificent angelic beings and source energy and ethereal beings that have, the stuff they say is just profound. I mean, they write all my books with me. Their names should really be on these books, but they said we want no gratitude or we want no accolade for that because we are here just to support you, and you're the one in human form. They're kind of coming through right now and saying that. So it's really, you have to look at how you feel about any tool you use. And if you bring that to the table, then you will tend to get, whatever it is you think. It's kind of like the placebo effect. If you believe this sugar pill is going to work for you, it will. If you don't believe it's not going to work, it probably won't. Same thing here.
Yeah.
So,
and also, this just brings up to me challenging beliefs. Because if I've got, this maybe subconscious belief that, we're talking about this, but I'm not going to get one. But like, what other beliefs do I hold as true?
Yeah.
And, as human beings in our younger days, I mean, how many people believe that they're not smart enough? How many people believe they're not lovable? How many people believe, they can't play sports? And I mean, some of these, this might just be a good conversation to realize that we got to challenge our beliefs. Because, there's not a single one of us that's not lovable. But, I mean, I've experienced many times that I feel unlovable, but there's no truth in it. So nobody's saying you have to go out and buy a Ouija board. You
Right.
don't.
Right.
But if you can use this conversation to challenge some of those beliefs and be open to whether it's creating your own board or using something to get yourself closer in touch with the spirit realm, all good. So let's talk about tying it in with how you've used it that you believe in life after death.
Oh,
Have you,
wow.
yeah.
Yes. I just want to say with that comment you just made, gosh, it's brilliant to say that, because what I find, and this is how I help people reach into their greatness with this tool, and not just this tool, but these ideas like you brought up. It's the concept that there are many possibilities to life. And as you said, if you can explore what's going on internally within yourself, your whole life externally will be different.
Wow.
If you really can clean up that stuff in there, because it's true, we all were born in love and light, and they're not inherently evil, not wicked, and not full of sin. We were born pure and light, and we can get back to that place. And I find this tool has helped people do that. But I also find just having this conversation, exploring, like you said, your internal beliefs is where it needs to go. That was so well said.
Thanks.
So yeah, good segue into this. And so this is what has happened for me with this tool, with the afterlife. So we started talking with that sister. And I was just blown away, not just that we could talk to her, but blown away that she was still alive. And so what the spirit guides tell me all the time, they say, what humanity calls death, we call life. There is no such thing as death. It's always a continuation of life. It just changes form. Mm-hmm. So they get into the physics of it, but they say this is what we experience. Now, when I talk to somebody who's passed over, and I do that quite often, and I have many, many times over the years, they will say, oh my God, it's such a joy to be here. I've had nobody say this sucks or it's over. Right. It's always been a beautiful continuity of love. Now, I will tell you what changed. What really made me look at this tool and look at the afterlife in an even grander way. And I would like to share this story with your listeners, because it kind of parroted what had happened to me at a young age, at the age of 8, with the sister who is deceased. So the story goes like this. Now, this was about 13 years later. So here we are. It was 1986. I had taken the board with me to college towards the end of my college years, I think for the last year and a half. And I had a sorority, and there was a couple girls in this group that were really good at using the board with me, and everybody was pretty cool about it. Nobody cared, And there's a few people in the sorority house that were a little freaked on it. And I said, well, I'll just, I'll do it in my own room or whatever. But they said, we're curious. There's all these stories we're hearing, and this is really fascinating. We'd like to see you use it. Mm-hmm. But we don't really believe it's real. And I said, okay. To this day, I don't prove anything, but then I felt like I wanted to prove to them something was going on here. I was kind of on a different mission with the tool. So I invited, it was about 8 women, and then myself, and then the other person who operated the board with me, and then a person who was writing, who was a scribe. And so what I did was this, and I kind of popped this on my partner who's using the board. I said, we're going to blindfold ourselves. She's like, oh, okay, we'll do that. We had such a strong connection with this deceased woman we were talking to that we knew that she would come through. And I also had a spirit guide who was coming through, and I knew that there was no problem with this tool working. So we had that much faith in our abilities to work this tool, I should say. We had a faith in our own abilities. Mm-hmm. So we sat down, blindfolded ourselves. We used her board, which was an older board than mine. Mine's in circa 73. Hers was circa late 50s, 60s. So it was a board that was a lot larger. I wasn't used to using it. And we put it on our laps. We sat down cross-legged from each other on our laps. We were blindfolded, could not see, put our hands in the planchette, and we just opened it up asking for the guide to come through. And then the other gal was sitting there ready to take dictation. Mm-hmm. So here we are. It starts the planchette, which is the piece that goes on the board, which is an indicator which points to the letters. Right. It starts moving rapid fire, Sandra, around this board really quickly. I'm used to that, but at that time I wasn't used to that kind of rapidity. This was so rapid. Move. I hear a little sniffle in the room. I'm like, is everything okay? They're like, no, go on. Move. And this girl's writing, and I'm just trying to keep my fingers on for dear life. Right. Basically, it stops, comes to a complete stop, it halts. So we pull our blindfolds off, and I asked the gal right, and I said, please read what it says. Now, I always change the names of people, so
yeah,
this
of
is
course.
basically, yeah. So this is basically what it said, and so it's not verbatim. I don't have the book I'm reading in front of you, but it's in my book, The Spirits of Ouija, verbatim. I used to keep, and I still do, copious notes of every session. So what it said was this: Dear Layla, this is your sister. I want you to know that I am fine. And so is my boyfriend. We love you. We're still with you. We died on impact. Please do not carry the burden of our loss anymore. Know that the only pain we feel is the pain that you carry because you feel like you've lost us. We are here. We will always be with you. We love you. Tell mom and dad I give my love, and we'll be with you again. Now, when that happened, there was not a dry eye in the room. We just listened to the message. It was quiet. You could hear a pin drop. And then the gal who this message was for started crying. I went, "What? You got a dead sister?" I didn't even know she had a dead sister.
Oh.
She apparently had a sister that died 4 or 5 years earlier. She never talked about it. Nobody in that room knew but her. And I'm like, wait a second. Okay, something's going on here. Plus we were blindfolded, okay? So we sat there. She's crying. And the girls are looking at us going, oh my God. And now my partner and I knew, we were like, we've been doing this stuff for a while. This is really working. And I just said, you guys, no more fun and games. I don't need to prove anything to anybody else. I said, this changes the whole thing with this tool. This is for grief. This is for closure. This is to know that life continues on. This is to know that love is there forever, never to end, never to cease. It's always going to be in existence. And that taught me a big lesson. At that moment, in that time, that second, it changed my whole direction I was going with this tool. Although I was you always using it positively, but it gave me a new focus that this was very therapeutic. This was very much would allow us to help people, and that life does really continue on with love, nothing but love. And this gal and her boyfriend that were killed in this car wreck was not their fault. They were killed by somebody else. They had no animosity, no pain, and no fear, no grief, no disappointment, no anger. And that was such a beautiful thing to learn.
That's incredible. Your hands must have been flying over that board with all those words, all those letters. And the person keeping track of each letter and writing it all down. I mean, that must have happened fast.
It did. And thank goodness the gal who was dictating, she had done dictation before, so she was good at it. Now, when I typically use the board now, I have only one finger on the planchette. My partner will have like 2 or 3 on each hand. And then I write with my right hand. I have my left hand, and it moves around really quickly, and I call it the letters, and I just write them down. And I write them that's how I can separate myself from it, so it becomes more, I'm not in the, what was the word I'm trying to say? I dissociate in a sense from what's coming, so I can really let it come through naturally without my influence. And that's a technique I've taught myself over the years, and it seems to work really well for me.
Can you do it with just yourself, or do you need a partner to do it?
I can do it by myself, and I'll explain that. For 39 years, I only used it with a partner. And I'll tell you why, Sandra. On the back of the box and on some of the older boards on the back of the board, it said, use with a partner, preferably male, female, and put this board planchette between the two of you, or the board with the planchette, and rest your fingers lightly on it. So I followed the only little rules that were on the box and board and thought you had to have a partner. And then I used to list one of my brothers when I was younger because I thought you had to have a boy with you or a man. So what I've learned after 39 years of always using a partner, that I started using it by myself. And I prefer a partner. I like the camaraderie of using it with somebody and the conversations that it evokes. And also, I think when people first start out, it's easier to feel the pull, the planchette, when the energies move it of the energies you're contacting. It's easier to find that and know what it feels like than when you try it right out of the box with yourself. So it's kind of hard to do it on your own. Plus, I know people who get addicted to this tool because you can have immediate results with it. And I try to keep people away from doing that. I'd say it's better to work with somebody, although I'm not opposed to it at all. If that's all they can do, then definitely they can use it by themselves.
And then how did you transition to now not needing it and just hearing the words coming through?
Well, to me, the board, because I've been doing it such a long time, and the spirit guides, and I talked about it, it was almost like it become a crutch for me, where I had always had desires to move it off the board, because I've always been very intuitive, empathic, and they said, you can work with us directly without this, and they also said your work in the world that you're doing, it slows it down, because for them it's a direct transmission. It comes really quickly, even when the deceased speak to you, it comes fast, and especially these ethereal beings, it comes real quickly. And when I do the board, it slows the process way the heck down. And so it might take, you can imagine, span out all the letters. It can take 15 minutes to get something that would have only taken 1 minute if I was verbally saying it. So in order to bring their messages to the world in a more complete way, part of my goal was to get off the board. So I can even get the more profound messages where I don't lose any words and they don't have to be simplistic to spell it all out, but it can come through more quickly. And so it's something I've been practicing, for the last couple of years to do that.
I just got this image of my mind of a cartoon, and it's two souls that are like communicating telepathically, and they're both looking down with this face, looking at the person on Earth with the Ouija board, and they're going TH
right.
E, like how slow.
They're like, my God, could you please speed this up?
And the two of them are blah, 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 because we get the old psychic communication in the spirit world. I just thought it's pretty funny.
That's really cute. And truly that's how it works. And sometimes I'll get their words coming through on the board, and the word will be missing. And I'll say, did you guys forget a word? They go, we didn't forget it. You did, because we have to slow it down for you, and you missed that word. And it's true. It's like I might have thought it in my head real quick, and they go, oh, she got it. But if I don't say it out loud, then it's like I didn't get it. And they know that. So they work around that with me. That's the reason why I speak the letters out loud when I do it. Everybody has their own way of using this tool. That I just developed that over the years, and it works really well for me.
Yeah, why not? Now, are you still working with people, helping them bring through their loved ones and things like that?
Absolutely. Still do that. And also a big thing that we've been doing is, like I mentioned, was animal communications. Even, and this might sound a little strange, but I don't think it will to your audience, because people can communicate with animals. They're alive. I also communicate with animals that are alive through the board, so I can talk.
Talk about that a little, because I've been asked that I don't talk about animal communication enough, and the thing is. We love our animals. We fall in love with our animals. I mean, we're closer to our animals than with most human beings because of that unconditional love. So we want to know that they go on. And then even, I've got a cat in this house that his name's Harry, and he, doesn't love me. He loves my aunt, and that's fine because she's home more than I am. But, the cat looks at me and he just walks right by, no interest. It's like, I wouldn't mind a little communication. And he's a good kitty, but let's build a little relationship here. Have a little compassion.
They have a lot to say, and in each animal, as we know, you don't have to even talk to your animals. Although they're always, as they tell me, they're always communicating with us, and they think it's silly when I try to talk to them on the board, because they said, "Wait, you talk to us all the time." So there's a subconscious telepathic level where we're not even always aware of it, that we're in communication. And people do that with their plants. They know, they feel that this plant needs this, or needs that soil, or needs this water, or needs this, new vase, or whatever it is. And your animals are the same. And it's more than just reading their body language. They communicate this on such a different, it's a visceral, it's images, it's very different. So for them to sit there and spell, they usually get helpers. So when I work with animals through the board, whether they're deceased or alive, I have special, I would say, guides that come through who actually work with the animal kingdom. And they come through, they're kind of like, you could call them an oversoul to the certain species. And these beings will come through and help translate into words for us. But how they do that is they read the vibration of the animal, whatever the animal's exuding or expressing, and they'll pick up its images, they'll pick up its feelings, and they translate that into words that's close enough. And that's what psychics do, or mediums too. We're picking up on those vibrations of the images we're receiving. So it's very much done in the imaginal realm, those kind of centers, as well as through the feeling centers, through our senses. And that's how they communicate. And so when they come to the board, I have this guide, these helpers that are translating that into words, and then I'm getting real sentences. And animals will, to me, when they communicate, they're very much like a little 5 or 6-year-old who will just speak their mind, and there's no filters. And it's just hysterical, and it's beautiful, and it's just so wonderful because it's pure.
Can you give us any examples? Is there anything that comes to mind?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, so I've done quite a few shows where we're doing this for people with the board. I say me, my partner and I are doing this on the board, and people ask questions of their animals, and mostly people want to talk to their deceased animals. But I will tell you this, in general terms with the deceased animals, they do continue on. They have continuity of life. They don't die. When they transition, they understand transitioning even before they transition. They totally get it. They get that they always will exist, and they always come through with the beautiful message, just like our loved ones do, of how much thank you for taking care of me. You love me. Of course, I've always loved you. I'll be here with you again. Those kinds of messages. Now, I've had some specific things where I've spoken to people's pets that are alive, or even wild animals. For example, I had this rattlesnake. You could talk to all levels of animals, by the way, all different kinds. And so this rattlesnake came into my yard, and I had posted it on Facebook, and I took pictures of it, and I wasn't afraid of it because I know how far they can jump, and they have to be coiled up to jump. I know they can only go like a third of their body, and I know all that stuff, and I wasn't afraid until it coiled up. And once it coiled up, I said, okay, time to go back in. But I got all these wonderful photos of it, and people were like, why didn't you kill it? Why don't you? And I was like, why? I had such a feeling from the snake that it just was passing through, and it just wanted to, what it did, it went over to my little fountain I have, which is like a little waterfall, and just stuck its head in there and drank water, and then it sat there for a while, and then went on its way. It was thirsty. And so I thought, let me communicate with this animal, this reptile. So I did, and it came through and said, it said it in a language I can understand, obviously. So it was interpreted by like a oversoul energy of this snake, of the rattlesnake. And it came through and it said, just so you know, I just came through to drink, and I'm not afraid, and I hope you aren't either. However, trust that I am a wild animal, and I will strike if I have to. But I came through, and I've come through before just to have a drink. And then I'm on my way. And I was like, that's exactly what it did. And I knew it was a he. It said it was a he. I knew how old it was. It told me how old it was. It's things like that. You can have these kind of specific conversations with these animals.
Have you ever reconnected someone with their deceased pet?
Oh, many, many times, many different shows. I'll have them call in and they want to talk to them, and they have conversations, or they say, or the animal come through and say something specific that only they would know, or, something about what they enjoyed that happened. And I had people this is what I find is one of the hardest thing for people. So, and I fully get it. I know you will too, Sandra. There's times when people have to put their animals down.
Yes. I've been there. It's awful.
Yes, exactly. It's awful, but it's necessary. And it's necessary because you don't want that animal to suffer, right, and do heroics that don't need to be done. And I wish we could do this with people more often too. I don't know. I have a whole different thing on a belief on life and death because I don't believe that death ever exists. So what I find is people have the hardest time with that. And the biggest question will be that I have this dog or I had this cat and I had to put him down. And is she upset at me? And people hold that. Are these animals mad at me? Of course.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. I don't blame people at all. I fully get it. And their answer is, you love me so much. Thank you for taking care of me. It was time for me to go, and I knew that. And you responded because I was letting you know, and you took me to this place and allowed me to go peacefully. Thank you. That's what the answer is every single time. So many different words, but that's what the answer is. They understand the love behind it, that you really, really cared for them, and you only did that out of love. And just because we can't have a verbal language, with the alphabet that we have, and it doesn't matter. They feel. Animals are so feeling centered and so telepathic, and that's their communication. So they feel us so strongly, and they feel your love, and they feel your sadness about it, and they only want you to know that everything's going to be okay, and not to grieve over them, that they're here. They're right there with you.
Yes, as our deceased loved ones right here.
No different. And animals, it always bothered me when I used to hear different traditions say, oh, the animals don't have souls or they don't continue on. Well, that's just hogwash, at least from my experiences and everything I've done for people over the years with talking to the animals and the deceased. They do continue on. Everything that's alive, sentient beings have souls. They do continue on.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's beautiful.
Now, do you have a YouTube channel where we can see you doing some of these things?
Absolutely. I'm glad you asked. I do. I have a channel. It's under my name, Karen A. Dahlman, Dahlman. And I started a new show in the last couple of months. I have one show that's called The Women of Ouija, where we talk about all things Ouija for the last 2 years. There's like 67 episodes. Yeah, that's a fun one. Really fun. We do a lot of exploration into spirituality along with the Ouija board. I can't separate the two. But I have a new show I just started called Creative Visions TV, where it's called Creative Visions TV Beyond the Board. And I do shows where my partner and I will show you how to use a board. We use it. And we did a session not too long ago where everybody on my channel, subscribers, got to write in with their questions. We drew them out of a hat and answered their questions and did a show where we're using the board, answering their questions. And you can watch and see us in operation and how we work, and also how we talk about it. There's 3 of those shows. And then I do shows where I interview people that I've met, a lot of these people I've met because of the Ouija board, and a lot of them do have affiliations, either collecting the board or using it. And they've been on my channel talking about things such as using crystals for healing, becoming a medium, developing your skills, mediumistic skills, spirit communication, and also developing your creativity. So I've got a great lineup there of guests. It's a lot of fun.
That's really wonderful.
Thank you. And that channel, like yours, Sandra, which I really appreciate your channel, it's all about empowering yourself.
Yeah. I mean, things can be entertaining, absolutely. But ultimately, we want to have a better life and to use whatever tools we have to know that we're not alone, that there's beings guiding us, helping us, and our loved ones are still around, and our life is for a purpose. I mean, yeah, like entertainment's good and having fun and all that. I have no problem with that whatsoever. But, if we can be courageous and go after our dreams and share and help other people, I mean, that's where the juicy stuff is. Karen, looking at the time, we have about 10 minutes left. I'm sure there's stuff that I should have asked you that I haven't, or maybe just reach into your guides. And is there anything that you want to share that, you haven't touched on already, or, just give us some philosophy or whatever. The floor is yours.
You're right. There's always so much to share in so many different directions. I would say the biggest thing here is we're talking about the Ouija board in a way is just as a tool. And I want to just emphasize that again. It's not the board that has any magical special powers. It's inanimate. What it is ourselves. And so the board, yes. And like we were talking about earlier, the board has really taught me about my own internal empowerment, but not just the board. There's many different techniques I use and tools and tips and ideas and suggestions and things I've studied over the years that have helped me develop that. And I would say if there's anything I can say in the show and the guides are saying, yes, we want you to share this. I think the largest, the biggest, most important message here is that we are a type of being that is so full of promise, so full of possibilities for expression of ourselves in the world at large, but also within ourselves. So we could just begin to turn back within ourselves and begin to explore this world within. And that's when we will see everything externally shift, change. No matter what's going on around us in the world, if we see that these possibilities exist within ourselves, these beautiful abilities are within us, the proclivities, skills, aptitudes are all within us, and we shift and find them, uncover them, discover them, explore them, we will find and express them, we will find that our worlds will change. And anything that you can do to augment yourself to do that, whether it's meditation, whether it's taking a walk in nature, grounding yourself, surrounding yourself with crystals, using tools such as a tarot deck, whatever it is, it might just be yourself as a walking tool, as we were talking about earlier. It's allowing yourself to tap into that wisdom within, because truly that is source within yourself. Truly, that's where it's found.
Oh, Karen, thanks so much. I wholeheartedly agree. And in this day that we have so much technology and our minds are busy between everything that's going on, and then our cell phones and our computers and our television and everything, there's not a lot of opportunity for a quiet mind. And it really is quieting the mind and going within that, this whole, I'm just getting a visual of a flower. You need to water your plants and flowers for them to grow and bloom, and the nurturing for us to bloom really is quieting our mind and being still. So
absolutely. I love that flower image, because it does. We do need to nurture this, and it is delicate like a flower. And then once you discover that and allow that garden to grow, it becomes so robust. It becomes so robust that you feel super empowered in your core, in your center, that then you feel like you can express anything you want to in the world. And it just gets stronger and stronger the more you go within. It's kind of really ironic in a way that's where you really find the truth and wisdom is all within. And the spirit guides are saying, yes, that is your source. Source is not here to serve you. Source is here to work through you.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, Karen.
Well, Sandra.
I'm hearing an echo for some reason on the line here. So what's the best way for people to get in touch with you is through your website? Yes.
That's right. Yes, website's a great place. I'm all over social media too under
Okay.
Karen A. Dahlman. I have a newsletter on my website. You might want to join. You won't get all this crap coming at you. You'll get something like maybe once every 4 to 6 weeks, articles, and then also, yeah, come check out my YouTube channel. I'm really excited about what we're doing now and how we're bringing the information from the guides more to the forefront for everybody to be a part of, participate, and also really trying to help people learn to do all this natural work themselves. There's no taking the mysteriousness out of spirit communication or even out of understanding how to work with the deceased or your spirit guides. It's very, very natural and really trying to help people do that. So yeah, come join me. And I really love people write to me too. It's really fabulous. I appreciate all the support. So yes, I'd love to see everybody in social media and over at my sites.
Oh, fantastic. So if you are listening to this episode right now on YouTube, you can just scroll down. And in the body of the description of the episode, I'll have the link to Karen's YouTube channel and to her website and to her books. Very
Yay!
exciting. Well, Karen, it has been a delight to talk to you.
Oh, it's been wonderful on my side. Great talking to you too. And it's just a pleasure to be on your show. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, anytime. And I'm still, left challenged with my belief of the Ouija board. I'm like, what is that? But what a great thing to start challenging beliefs. Use
Yes.
it as, and again, we're not saying everybody go out and buy one, but let's look at some beliefs that we have and, find some evidence that they're true, and then maybe we can talk, right?
That's it right there
But
in a nutshell.
but most of them you can't. And as a reminder to our listeners, feel free to go to WeDon'tDieRadio.com. You can click on the Insiders Club, and you get a copy of How to Survive Grief, my audio about grief, and also read from my book, We Don't Die. And I've mentioned this before, but there's a great afterlife conference coming up in September. The Afterlife Symposium, it's called, which is September 15th through 17th in Scottsdale, Arizona. So come meet me in person if you like. Afterlifestudies.org is the website. Check out who's doing what in the world of the afterlife. So in closing, my name is Sandra Champlain, and I'm really happy that we just had this great conversation with Karen. How fun. And I want to tell you, thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening to our show and other shows. Some people have written me that have listened to every single episode. That's quite a commitment of your time, but it shows me that people are looking for answers, looking for a community, looking for reasons to feel hope. And I can tell you, and Karen can, and many of the guests can, life after death is real. Your life is for a purpose. So while you're here, learn, connect, quiet your mind, tap into these things within. If you hear something from one of the guests that inspires you, find out more about it. Just check it out and have some fun. So I do really, from the bottom of my heart, want to thank you for listening, and we'll see you soon.